Good day again, guys. So, welcome back. This is still our discussion of part 3 of accounting for property, plant, and equipment. So, in our last video, we talked about depletion and its related standard, which is PFRS 6, exploration and evaluation. So, for this video, we will be focusing on past 23 borrowing costs. So one of the things that is part of the initial measurement of property, plant, and equipment is etong mga borrowing costs. So if you want to know how to account for borrowing costs and how and when they are capitalized, then you should watch this video. So this is the third part of property, plant, and equipment, and this video will focus on borrowing costs. Borrowing cost is governed by PAS 23. So the standard for borrowing cost is PAS 23. According to PAS 23, borrowing costs that are directly attributable to the acquisition, construction, or production of a qualifying asset, so i-define natin yan mamaya, form part of the cost of the asset. So, hindi pala to laging expense. Minsan, kapag it's directly attributable to a qualifying asset, then it is part of the cost of that asset. Other borrowing costs are recognized as an expense. So, what are borrowing costs as defined by PAS 23? Accordingly, borrowing costs are interest and other costs incurred by an enterprise in connection with the borrowing of funds. So, nangutang kasi nagko-construct ng building. So, yung mga interest and other costs incurred are called borrowing costs. These are some examples. A. Interest expense calculated using the effective interest method. B. Finance charges in respect of finance leases. C. Exchange differences arising from foreign currency borrowings to the extent that they are recorded as an adjustment to interest cost. So yan po tatlo yung mga kasali sa borrowing cost. Pero normally, interest expense yung pinaka-normal. So what are qualifying assets naman? Qualifying asset are assets that take substantial period of time to get ready for its intended use. So matagal siya bagong gawin. Examples na pwedeng maging qualifying asset ay inventory. So you might wonder, sir, may mga inventory ba that take substantial period of time? Yes. For example, yung mga wine na sobrang tagal i-produce, no? Or some other like siguro cars or power plants or condo units, no? So these are qualifying assets. Another example of qualifying asset is manufacturing plants. Ayun na nga. Power generation facilities, intangible assets, investment properties, bearer plants. Okay? So, ang kailangan nyong tandaan is it takes substantial period of time bago siya maging ready for its intended use. So the general rule is, ika-capitalize mo yung borrowing cost if it's directly attributable sa qualifying asset. Okay, so qualifying asset lang. Pag in the first place, hindi siya qualifying asset, then automatic, you will not capitalize borrowing cost. An entity shall recognize other borrowing costs as an expense. Kasi 'di ba normally ang interest expense naman talaga. So very rare lang talaga siya nakakapitalize kapag siya ay directly attributable to the acquisition, construction, or production of a qualifying asset. Also, the amount of borrowing costs that an entity capitalizes during a period shall not exceed the amount of borrowing costs actually incurred during the period. So, hindi ka pwedeng mag-capitalize ng amount more than the actual na in-incur mo during the period. No? Kasi sobrang weird naman yun. So, ang limit mo lang is kung magkano lang talaga yung na-incur mo during the period. Okay, when do we start capitalizing? The capitalization of borrowing costs as part of the cost of a qualifying asset shall commence when all of the following are met. A. Expenditures for the asset are being incurred. B. Borrowing costs are being incurred. And C. Activities that are necessary to prepare the asset for its intended use or sale are in progress. So, dapat lahat yan ma-meet. Kapag wala yung isa dyan, then you cannot start capitalizing borrowing costs. When do you suspend capitalization? So you suspend capitalization during extended periods of suspension of active development of a qualifying asset. So for example, kunwari ngayon nagka-COVID, tapos na-suspend for extended period yung active development or construction ng qualifying asset, then you cannot also capitalize borrowing cost. An entity also does not suspend capitalizing borrowing cost when a temporary delay is a necessary part of the process of getting an asset ready for its intended use or sale. An entity does not normally suspend capitalizing borrowing costs during a period when it carries out substantial technical and admin work. So pag technical and admin work lang, hindi yun isususpend. Hindi rin isususpend kung yung mga temporary delay ay necessary. When does capitalization end? An entity shall cease capitalizing borrowing cost when substantially all the activities necessary to prepare the qualifying asset for its intended use or sale are complete. When an entity completes the construction of a qualifying asset in parts, and each part is capable of being used, while construction continues on other parts, the entity shall cease capitalizing borrowing cost for that part when it completes substantially all the activities necessary to prepare that part for its intended use or sale. So how do we now determine or compute the amount for capitalization? Meron tayong two types of borrowings. So we have specific borrowings and we have general borrowings. Yung specific borrowings ay inutang mo specifically for the construction or development of the qualifying asset. Yung general borrowings naman, all your other liabilities na hindi naman specifically for that certain project. So for specific borrowings, the amount to be capitalized is the actual borrowing cost, less any investment income on temporary investment of those borrowings. So kapag nangutang ka tapos nag-invest ka temporarily, so kapag nag-gain ka ng income from that investment, then i-deduct mo yun sa actual borrowing cost. Whatever the answer, yun yung ika-capitalize na borrowing cost. For general borrowings, you need to compute for a capitalization rate and then you multiply it to the expenditures on that asset. So how do we do that? The expenditures is computed as follows. The average expenditures is using the peso months, i-average mo siya, less yung specific borrowings kasi kung ano man yung average expenditure mo, a part of it is to be incurred gamit yung iyong inutang na specific borrowing, equals the average expenditures financed by general borrowings, and then you multiply that amount by the capitalization rate, yun yung ika-capitalize mo na general borrowing cost. The capitalization rate is computed as follows. Total annual interest from general borrowings divided by the total face value of general borrowings. Okay. Take note that the amount computed for general borrowings shall be compared with the actual borrowing cost incurred during the period. The amount to be capitalized is the lower amount. Kasi again, you cannot exceed that actual borrowing cost you incurred during the year. Okay, let's have an example. On January 1, 2019, Lumobo Corporation contracted with Maga Construction Company to construct a building for 40 million pesos on land that Lumobo purchased several years ago. The contract provides that Lumobo is to make 5 payments in 2019 with the last payment scheduled for the date of completion. The building was completed on December 31, 2019. These are the payments made during 2019. January 1, 4 million. March 31, 8 million. June 30, 12 million 200. September 30, 8 million 800. December 31, 7 million for a total of 40 million pesos. And Lumobo had the following debt outstanding at December 31. At 12%, 17 million 4-year note dated January 1, 2019. Both principal and interest are payable on December 31, 2022. This loan relates specifically to the building project. B. A 10%, 12 million 10-year note dated December 31, 2015 with simple interest, interest payable annually on December 31. And letter C, a 12%, 14 million 5-year note dated December 31, 2016 with simple interest, interest payable annually on December 31. We will compute for the amount of interest to be capitalized and amount of interest that would be expensed. So let's start with for the capitalized interest. First, for specific borrowing, that's very simple. We just compute for the annual interest for the borrowing. That's 17 million times 12%. That's 2,040,000. For general borrowings, first, compute muna natin yung capitalization rate. So the capitalization rate is the annual interest from general borrowings. So meron tayong yung 12 million times 10%. That's 1,200,000 interest for the year. Then we have yung 14 million times 12%. Ang total interest niya ay 1,680,000 for a total interest of 2,880,000. I-divide nyo yan sa face value ng total general borrowings, which is 12 million plus 14 million. That's 26 million. The capitalization rate is 11.08%. Next, we compute for the average expenditure. So using the peso months tayo, so January 1, nagbayad ka ng 4 million. Since nagbayad ka on January 1, outstanding siya for 12 months, so times 12 over 12, that's 4 million. Next, March 31, so from March 31, 8 million, outstanding siya for 9 months, so times 9 over 12, that's 6 million. Next, June 30, that's 12 million 200, and from June 30, siya ay outstanding for 6 months, so times 6 over 12, that's 6 million 100. September 30, 8,800,000. Imumultiply natin siya by 3 over 12 kasi outstanding siya ng 3 months from September 30. That's 2,125,000. Take note, hindi na natin sinali yung December 31 payment dahil binayaran siya on December 31, wala siyang outstanding months kasi December 31 binayaran. So hindi na siya kasali sa pag-compute ng average expenditure. So ang total is 18,225,000. Tanggalin muna natin yung ifa-finance ng specific borrowings which is 17 million. So yung ifa-finance na lang ng general borrowings ay 1,225,000. Multiply by the capitalization rate 11.08%. The interest to be capitalized for general borrowings is 135,000. Take note na ang actual something like 2 million plus. So okay ang ating 135,730. Meaning, in summary, the amount to be capitalized is for specific 2,040,000 and for general 135,730 for a total of 2,175,730. For the expense naman, the amount to be expensed, the total interest incurred for general borrowings for the year is 2,880,000. Tapos, kinapitalize mo yung 135,730, ibig sabihin ang expense na lang ay 2,744,270. So, that's it for our example for borrowing cost. So, dun po nagtatapos ang ating lecture and discussion for borrowing cost. Now, it's your time to test your knowledge. If you know the answer to this question, then comment your answer to this video. Sabre Company had the following general borrowings during 2019, which were used to finance the construction of the company's new warehouse. So meron tayong 10% bank loan, 2,400,000. Borrowing cost, 240,000. 10% short-term note, 1,600,000 yung principal. Borrowing cost, 160,000. 12% note, principal is 2 million and borrowing cost is 240,000. The construction began on January 1, 2018 and the warehouse was completed on December 31, 2018. Expenditures on the warehouse were made as follows during 2018. January 1, 400,000. March 31, 1 million. June 30, 1,200,000. September 31, 1 million. December 31, 400,000. The question is, what amount of borrowing cost should the company capitalize during 2018? A, 212,500. B, 213,400. C, 225,000. Or D, 680,000. So, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you learned something from this video tutorial. So, if you like this video, please like, comment, and share this video. Sa lahat ng mga hindi pa nakaka-subscribe, please subscribe to my channel, Sir AJ Cresmundo. So, that would be all for this video, guys. And I hope you learned something. So, I'll see you in the next video. Bye!